U.S. and North Korean officials will soon be talking again at the highest levels following last month's historic meeting between President Trump and North Korea's leader, Kim Jong-un. John Yang has the story.
Judy, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo left Washington early this morning for an Asian trip that's to include a day and a half in North Korea. He hopes to begin to flesh out details of Kim Jong-un's broad summit commitment to work toward denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. But recent reports cast doubt on North Korea's intentions. Analysis of satellite photos of the country's nuclear and missile facilities have led some to conclude that they're continuing to improve their capabilities. And according to reports, the U.S. intelligence community has concluded that North Korea is concealing some of its nuclear program and that the country has no intention of giving up its nuclear weapons. Joel Wit was on the team that negotiated a nuclear agreement with North Korea during the Clinton administration. He's the founder and publisher of the website 38 North, which focuses on North Korea. Joel Wit, thanks for joining us. Some groups like the Middlebury Institute of International Studies look at the satellite images of construction going on at the nuclear research facility at Yongbyon, the solid rocket motor factory at Hamhung, and they conclude that North Korea has no intention of giving up its weapons and its capabilities. When you look at those satellite photos, what do you conclude?
Well, what I conclude is that North Korea, like any other country, is continuing to improve its weapons capabilities until they have a detailed agreement with the United States on denuclearization. I think it's wrong to expect them to stop doing that before they have that kind of agreement. And their behavior is like any other country, the United States, the Soviet Union. We all continued to build while we were negotiating.
And conceivably, you're building capability that you're willing to negotiate away.
That's exactly it. So what we're all doing, or what we did during the Cold War, what North Korea is doing now, is building up leverage. And secondly, negotiations may fail. So North Korea doesn't want to be caught short if the negotiations failed and it stopped doing all of its weapons programs.
In these negotiations, though, could one side ask the other to stop, to halt, to sort of freeze operations as a confidence-building measure?
Well, they could. And in fact, as you know, the North Koreans have stopped testing their missiles and stopped testing nuclear weapons. So they have done that unilaterally.
What are the limitations of this sort of analysis of satellite imagery as opposed to human intelligence on the ground?
Well, you know, all of these means of intelligence analysis have shortcomings. So if I was in the U.S. government, I would have a variety of sources of information. I'd put them all together to come up with a conclusion. The problem with the satellite imagery we use is that we don't get it every day, and sometimes we don't even get it for long periods of time. So we have to surmise from these snapshots what's going on.
There's also been a difference in voices from the administration about the timetable for all of this. Within the past week, we heard slightly different versions from the National Security Advisor, John Bolton, and from the president himself at a rally in North Dakota. Let's take a listen and then talk about it on the other side.
With North Korean cooperation, with full disclosure of all of their chemical and biological nuclear programs, ballistic missiles, physically we would be able to dismantle the overwhelming bulk of their programs within a year.
So we have things cooking now. You're going to be so happy. But when people rush it, you know, it's like rushing the turkey out of the stove. It's not going to be as good. The longer we take, the better.
How do you reconcile those two things?
Well, you know, this isn't capitulation, it's negotiation. And John Bolton, I think, would like capitulation. And in that sense, it would take a year.
Capitulation from the North Koreans.
Yeah, the North Koreans would capitulate. They'd tell us about everything they've gotten, they've built, and then, you know, we would disable and dismantle it. The president, I think, is being more realistic here. It's going to be a negotiation. There's going to have to be give and take between the two sides. It's going to take time. And that's something we all need to understand.
And John Bolton also mentioned chemical and biological weapons in addition to nuclear weapons. Is that expanding the field a little bit here?
It's definitely expanding the field. The agreement reached at the summit doesn't include all of those different types of weapons. So he's looking for everything, and he wants to do it all in 1 year. So that's not possible.
And with Mike Pompeo now, we're headed to North Korea now. In your judgment, what are the chances that that sort of broad commitment of Singapore translates into an eventual denuclearized Korean peninsula?
Well, it may translate into that, but it's not going to translate into that as a result of one trip for 2 days to Pyongyang. This is going to be a process. It's going to take time to negotiate an agreement. You need negotiators, but you also need the Secretary of State and the President to be actively involved throughout the process.
Joel Wit, founder and co-editor of 38 North. Thank you very much.
Thank you.